one of the other things that I want to mention, so we know your strengths and your passions, visualize things, do experiences, grow bigger thoughts, bigger ideas. But the next thing is like, get feedback from other people that are around you.
Welcome back to the show. And we are here to talk about the fourth and final step of entrepreneurship. Again, referencing Patrick Bet-David and kind of his strategy, his book. Check it out. So let's just recap real quick. 1 through 4, we've got a survival stage. And we talked about that a few weeks ago, and the ups and downs and the grinding that it takes to get through that. And then we talked about the next stage, which is the status stage. Get out of that survival. Money's working, business is good, marriage is good, things are good. And then we jump into the freedom stage. We talked about this most recently, actually just before Christmas. And that's kind of where we believe we're at right now. And we're trying to figure out, all right, how do we move forward? What is our true purpose? Because that's the final stage, is purpose. So today, we want to talk about purpose. We're going to talk about that final fourth stage, what it means to us, and we're not there yet. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things, strategies, maybe sounds more professional, that we are trying to implement to figure out what is our true purpose. And obviously we'll talk about our beliefs and Christianity, because that plays a big factor into it. So we've got just a couple notes that we want to maybe just bullet point before we kind of dive into that. But if you want to maybe just kick it off, Angela, with talking about, how do we even try to find path of what our purpose might even look like?
It's difficult, it's tricky, especially not being there. Like, we believe we're in the freedom stage. And so we are actively trying to get from freedom to purpose, because we believe that the freedom stage is great, but ultimately we are here for a greater purpose. And that's part of our foundational beliefs, our faith beliefs, is that God put us here on this earth to do something bigger, something outside of ourselves, something outside of our family. And so that is our desire, and our passion is to do something bigger. But the question is always, well, how do you get there, right? What's the bridge that looks like? What does the bridge look like going from point A to point B? And if we're completely honest and open with you guys today,
which we always are.
We're still building the bridge. We're trying to figure that out. So today we're really just sharing like what we are actively doing to try to get to the purpose stage and really live out our purpose and what we believe God's put us on this earth to do. So one of the many things that I think it starts with, you have to have your core vision or your core belief or your mission. And so we kind of have that as a family. So if you don't have that, I would say the number one thing is to come together, write that down, because ultimately you're going to filter business stuff, personal stuff, work stuff through this one core belief.
If it doesn't align, if a decision or something that comes into play or an opportunity doesn't align with what our mission that we've decided, or our values that we've decided for our family, then we just filter it out, right? And sometimes you get that shiny object syndrome, and sometimes you get that, well, this would be really great if we could just, it might not align perfectly, but it's kind of parallel and it's close, so maybe. And that's where your spouse or your husband or your wife has to say, hold on a second, like, does that actually align? And so as we move into 2025, we're really focused on time with each other, time with our family, time with our daughter, hopefully maybe another child in 2025. And so that's one big thing is, does it align? I've only got so much time in the day. You only have so much time in the day. Will this next opportunity, will this trip, will this meeting with this person, will these things align with that big common goal of time? And if it's going to be a time suck, or a time, what's the opposite of a time suck?
A time filler, you feel rejuvenated after whatever it is.
Then we should maybe do that, right? The other thing that is interesting to understand too is there is an investment that has to be made. There's an investment of time that needs to be made to get time. So for example, with having an assistant, there's a very large time investment that has to be made to teach and to train this individual on how we want to run things or how we want things to be done. And so you have to understand that too, and I understand that too, but that's a big factor. So you had just mentioned passions and strengths, understanding maybe a little bit what those look like. For people that are listening, how important do you feel like growth, like self-development and growth is? Because we talked about this just before we got on we hit record, just before we hit record, and you're like, I disagree with that. I had said the comment, I want to hear your feedback and maybe digest it a little bit more. I had said the comment that you could go from stage 1 through 3, so survival, status, and freedom, with really no set goals or really no goals. And I think the only caveat to that is, a loose goal of like, I want a bigger house, or I want a car, or some material possession, right? I think you can go through all those stages. You immediately said, I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think that's possible. Because I know some people that, I gotta be careful of what I say. I know some people that have money and that have stuff and have enough. And it doesn't seem that they have a goal or a desire or a vision or a purpose. They're just doing it and they get through it. They go through it. So I'd love to hear why you said no, that you couldn't get through each one of those stages maybe without having a motivation or goal.
Because immediately I think of the survival stage, and what got us through the survival stage into status was our goals and our visions.
Sure.
I think that it would be really easy to just fall off the train during the survival stage if you don't have this greater idea of what you're headed towards. It's a lot more difficult to go through,
Sure.
why, you start questioning, why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
Why am I going through
weeks.
the long nights, the long days? Why am I missing all the holidays? Why am I traveling for work? Why am I knocking on doors? Why am I doing... So if you don't have an answer to that question of why, I just have a hard time believing that you'll even get through survival.
Well, how much of a puller or motivator do you feel like money, material things are?
I think money can be a motivating. I think for some people that is enough
That's
of a motivating factor.
Okay.
They want to make enough money to do X, Y, and Z, or to be able to do things for their kids or their grandkids or whatever. So I think there is money is definitely a motivating factor.
Sure.
Not for everybody, but that's where you have to know what motivates you or what your purpose is. If your purpose is to get a new car, then that's what you're going to work for until you get the new car.
And you realize how unfulfilling that is.
Right. Then it's time to set some new goals.
Right.
Move the bar. I think that's how you get through each stage, right? We didn't have the same goals that we have today 5 years ago.
No.
In fact, we actually looked at some of our goals from last year and how drastically they had changed in 1 year. Some of them we just didn't hit, and some of them it was like, well, that actually isn't the direction that we're headed anymore, so we're going to kind of turn and reset. So I want to go back. Let's kind of break down what we're doing. Let's share with everybody what we are personally doing to try to get to that purpose stage. So the first thing that we're focusing on is setting those goals based on our strengths and our what we like to do.
Passion.
What makes us get up every day. So obviously that's different for you and me, but how important would you say that first step is to identify your strengths and your passions and to get those out on paper? How important is that to purpose?
It's super important, which is why I wanted to, because this ties in perfect with what I was kind of getting towards, is when you get to this stage, I feel like you have to want to self-develop. You have to want to dive into leadership book maybe, or dive into a investing book. You have to want to educate yourself, because to really, I think, get and to understand and to know your purpose, you have to know yourself even more than you already do. And so it is super important. And it really just comes down to you need to just get some quiet time.
Don't like quiet time.
I don't like it either, which is why I'm dreading.
Most people don't.
Yeah, which is why I'm dreading doing my own little quiet time to just sit and leave my phone at home and just write or type or do whatever. But you have to just sit and be, and you have to put stuff down on paper or put stuff down on the computer, whatever you like to type or to journal or write, you have to put it down. You have to get it out of the brain on the paper to see it so that you can visualize it and understand, okay, no, that's not actually what I really want to do. That's not what I want to do. I actually believe I need to go this direction. And we saw that when we sat down and reviewed our 2024 goals and the time chart. Angela drew me a very fancy time chart last year. This is where I'd like you to shift some things. And I think we moved it maybe 10%, maybe 5%. We adjusted. And so I'm hoping to shift that even more this year in 2025. But until we write stuff down, until we look at it, until you see it on paper, for those business owners who do retail, business and stuff, until you see the drawings, the plans, the build out design, can you really picture it? No, not really, which is why corporations do slide decks and do CGI and do all these things. It's so we can envision it, we can see ourselves in that space, in that place, because that gets our subconscious mind going. I forget if it was you and I talking, maybe we were talking with your parents over Christmas or something, but we were talking about how the subconscious mind actually, remember that quote? Subconscious mind actually produces the result.
What you believe, what you think.
Yeah, it was you that saw that quote.
What you believe is you'll find realities to affirm that belief.
Correct. So to answer your question, I think personally, you could talk to a lot of other people who are very successful, way more successful than us, way more wealthy, and I think they would tell you the same thing. Until you write things down, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, you won't grow to a certain level. Now, we are talking about growth, and the reason we're talking about growth is because you need to grow and elevate yourself, I think, truly before you can find out what your purpose is. I don't think your purpose just magically appears in the mailbox or in an email, or one day you just wake up and, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be, the next Gandhi or what have you. I don't think that's how it happens. At least I haven't seen a lot of people that way. I think it goes back to what you said, your passions, your strengths. And then to turn it a little bit where we believe spiritually, God gives you these special talents, right? And moves you in these certain directions. Right. I look at my life and yours as well, but I started in the military because I was passionate about people, helping people, right? That's why I joined the Coast Guard and not the Marines or the Army. I didn't want to go kill people. I didn't want to go to war. I wanted to help people. I wanted to save people. And then I found that I was a decent leader when I was there. And then God moved me into understanding that I like business and that I like being on my own and I like finance. So he moved me in that direction. I started my own business. And then now, we're moving into all of those things kind of combined. Business, leading people, coaching people, finance. There's a lot of money that moves around in a business. So now just looking back, I'm like, man, that's pretty clear that this is where I'm supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So the next thing is clearly the presidency. That's what, no. I'm just kidding. No, you don't want to do that.
No politics.
Maybe, we'll see. But you get my point. That was a quick curveball, by the way. Quick curveball, I just wanted to see her reaction. And if you're on YouTube watching, it wasn't a great reaction, so we'll see. I'll keep throwing that around. But you see, if you look back, kind of where you kind of head. At least I do. So I know that I'm on this right path, but let's be honest, and I'll throw this back over to you, do you feel that this next year, 2025, we're going to find our specific purpose that's going to be for the rest of our life? No.
It's little decisions, I think, along the way, which is something that I didn't fully understand, and I still don't fully understand it, but this is my purpose in life, that whole idea, right? There's a whole book on it. What's the purpose-driven life? I don't know that it is that easy. I think it is this path and this day-to-day thing. And the other thing I was going to say is I haven't always been able to write down my goals or my ideas or to envision it after writing it down like you have. I think there's different ways to go about it depending on how your brain works. So for me, and the second thing that I would start to say is to go through experiences. For me, I'm a visual person and I can base my goals after I've seen something, right? So for an example, once we went on our first vacation as a married couple, that was given to us, by the way. It was down here in Florida, but I remember thinking to myself, I would love to be in this sort of setting one day, or to have this sort of thing one day. Well, that's kind of how Florida kind of started, right?
We went to school here.
Vacationing, but we started vacationing here and things like that. But until I experienced that, I don't know if I could have put that on paper.
Yeah.
Right? So I think another way, if you're having a hard time with goals, is like say yes to experiences. Go do things. Go, another thing that we like to do, which as silly as it is to go look at homes. That's just something that we enjoy. But
I love that.
We love looking at houses way outside of our price range because it gives us that vision, like a bigger vision than what we are experiencing currently.
How about that one that had that secret room?
Amazing.
Literally just saw a house the other day. What was this, like a $5.5 million house?
Probably.
Something crazy. And a little sidetrack here. Sidetrack.
In the closet.
Had a secret room. That was through the bathroom though, wasn't it?
It was in the closet. It was, well, through the bathroom, through the closet.
Through the bathroom, through the closet, through the powder room, through the...
Yeah.
And this was this nice glass mirror. Oh, man. The problem I didn't like about it is the mirror. You're going to put your fingers on that mirror to get inside the door. Not a great design, but a great room. Super cool. Anyways,
my point being is go experience things. And sometimes I don't think you can envision bigger things or bigger purpose. Another one that's been on my list for a long time. Well, I don't know if it's been on my list. But
maybe we need to get it on the list.
I watched somebody build a road in a foreign country, in a third world country, for them to be able to get clean drinking water. And they built it like outside of a
village.
It was outside of a village.
South America?
Outside of the school, I think, though. So that the kids, maybe it was so that the kids. Anyways, I watched somebody be able to do that, and that created just this bigger vision of like, that's possible, or there's things outside of our area, our country, I don't know, just outside of our four walls that we could be doing.
Right.
But again, I wouldn't have even had that thought or that idea of like larger missions than
had you not seen
had I not seen it. So I think go experience things, whatever that looks like, say yes. And I think that will help you envision maybe some greater purposes outside of what you're used to.
So I'm a big write things down. Angela's a big experience, kind of visual. And I think a lot of, maybe speak on this a little bit too if you can, but I think a lot of women, and I'm not just singling out the women, but I think a lot of women are like this, especially when it comes to business. We've talked about this before, but they want security. They don't believe it until they see the paycheck come in. I mean, that was your experience. But how important do you think it is for the couple to come together and see different things when they're trying to figure out goals, dreams, vision, purpose in the future? How important is coming together, and maybe you could go into what are we going to do tonight for the first time?
Yeah. It's super important. And we talk about this early on in some of our episodes. Like, you can have different goals and dreams and kind of work side by side, but it just doesn't go as smooth. And I believe that God's purpose for us as a couple is to work together towards those goals and dreams. Do I think we're individuals? Of course. Do we have different goals and dreams? A little bit, but I think the more that you work together, the more that they kind of align. And what we mentioned in that other episode is to write down your goals and dreams separately. James and I have spent the week, in our own quiet times, kind of thinking through what we want 2025 to look like. Tonight, we're going to make our first prayer boards, vision boards, whatever you want to call them, and they're going to be done separately. But then you bring them together and you say, okay, which goals number one, align with our value, right? What is our family's value, and do these fit within that value? And then which ones of these are the same? Which one of these can we mesh together to create an aligned goal? And that's where we'll take those and kind of write those then down separately and say, okay, these are our business goals and our family's goals for the next year. So I think it's important to like analyze them separately and then funnel them through these filters to then create your goals. I think you are 10 times more likely to reach them when
they're written down.
When they're written down, but when you're on the same page.
Oh, 100%.
Than if you're just trying to do it on your own.
Sounds like a made-up number, but I like it. 10 times, at least 10 times more likely to meet them.
Well, think about like the accountability and two people are working towards one thing versus you doing it by yourself. I know a lot of goals that I've had in the past that are just on me where I haven't had any accountability. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Even if it is written down.
Yep. So if you didn't catch that, today is New Year's Eve day. Tonight is the big day, which we'll be sleeping probably about 9 o'clock. And then we'll get up tomorrow. We'll crush it at the gym with all of our new friends who will be there. Did you see that Instagram?
Yes.
That was a good one. Oh, if you're not following on Instagram, you're missing some good content. Anyway, and so Angela had this idea. I've heard about it before. I think this is a great year to start it, creating that vision or that prayer board so that you can visualize it. And it is true that if we write things down and if we stare at things or we read things every single day, we look at things every day, our subconscious mind will find a way, put us in the right opportunity with somebody, put us in the right conversation with somebody, have the right conversation with our spouse or our husband or our business partner, and our subconscious mind will find a way to help us accomplish that goal, dream, vision, or purpose. And so for Angela and I, as we create these prayer boards, these vision boards, our goal and our hope is that this brings us closer to what our purpose is. Now, our purpose we feel as we're going down this path and trying to figure it out. We haven't pinpointed it, and it could change down the road, but we feel it's this right here. We feel a big part of our purpose on why we've been able to be successful in business, on why our marriage has been able to stay strong through the hard times, is because one day we will be able to help married couples that are business owners or high-end executives to build a stronger marriage, to build a stronger family, to build that successful business, to be resilient, to have great kids, not just a great business, to have a great marriage, not just a great business, to make a lot of money and give a lot of money. And so, we feel that that's our purpose. We feel that's where we are going to head, but we don't know. We're just following our passion, our strengths, our goals and dreams down this path. And those of you that are following along, we love it. We're grateful. We've heard from a lot of people over the last, when did we start this? September? Yeah, September.
Yeah,
late
maybe
September.
last in October, yeah.
Yeah. And so we've heard from multiple people that not just the family, couple family, but people that have done business with us, that we do business with. And so that's what drives us, to sit down in this chaotic 3-year-old. You guys can't see it here, but we got toys all over and we're just making the podcast studio work for now. So that's what makes us sit down and do this, is to try to give some value, to try to give some resources, to try to help people understand that it's okay when you fail as a husband, it's okay when you fail as a leader, it's okay when you fail as a business partner, but you got to get back up and you got to try it again, and you got to communicate with your wife and your spouse. So anyway, enough about that. That's where we feel like we're headed. For stage 4, we'll probably be in this freedom stage for a while longer until we really kind of get a push.
Clear.
Yeah.
But I think one thing about our faith in it being a prayer board too, and not just a vision board for us, is that these are things that we've been praying about for a long time, and we do believe that the Lord kind of shows us and leads us, and that if we're seeing it, we're praying about it, He's either going to show us that, like, yes, this is,
move forward.
I want you to keep going forward with this, or no, like, I'm going to redirect you or take that off your list or whatever. So that's an encouraging thing, is that when we are praying about it, that the Lord is going to continue to show us which steps to take. One of the other things that I want to mention, so we know your strengths and your passions, visualize things, do experiences, grow bigger thoughts, bigger ideas. But the next thing is, like, get feedback from other people that are around you.
That's good.
Meaning, like, talk to your business partners. Ask them. James, we already sat down and he asked me, like, how did I do in these 4 areas?
It was 5 areas.
These 5 areas.
I didn't do good in the last one, clearly.
I didn't even remember it.
I would think
get
it was
feedback from people. How have you grown? What are your strengths? If you don't know, ask your spouse, ask your close friends, ask your pastor, ask people that are close to you, and get feedback to help you learn and grow. I think that's important to evaluate and analyze too.
Again, it goes to, as you move through these stages, are you going to be coachable to yourself? Are you going to be coachable to other people? And are you grow? Do you even have a desire to move on to your true purpose? Because there's so many people in business and that are successful, or that are high level executives, make a ton of money, that could be doing incredible things with it, right? There comes a point where you only need so much to live on a month, right? Unless you just have crazy, extravagant spending issues. If that's the case, you should talk to Dave Ramsey. But there comes a point where you do have to grow out of those things if you truly want to, like, if your soul truly wants to find the purpose. For example, I was talking with a guy last time I was up in New England, and he just came to me and said, hey, I've got this, like, I've got everything I need, everything I want, and it's still not enough. There's just still this void. So we had a really good conversation. But I mean, if that's you, like, obviously God is what you need to be striving for. Jesus is who needs to fill your void. But you have to move into a different direction than what you're currently doing. If you're continuing to go down this one road or this one path and it's just not working, you need to change course, right? So if you're stuck in the status stage and buying all these things and the next week you're not happy or you're not satisfied, well, you need to grow, right? We did that, and we did tons of growing, thankfully. I don't think there's anything wrong with being stuck in the freedom stage or being in the freedom stage. For me, though, it's not enough. I don't want that to sound like selfish or pompous or whatever. I want to know what I'm truly here on earth to do. Mm-hmm. Like, I know that my talents are in business. I know that I'm decent at it, that I'm pretty good at it. I know I'm good with talking with people. I know I'm good at relationships. Like, I feel like I can build relationships well. Maybe not everybody likes me, but, that's maybe a different podcast. But I know what my talents are, where I'm kind of strong and where I'm not. And I want to know truly where that can be utilized for the highest ROI, if that makes sense, for those business people listening. I want to know where I can be the greatest return on investment. Not just for me, but for my purpose, for God, for the kingdom, because that's what we believe. So it's not enough to just be in this freedom stage. And I was thinking about the other day, like, if we never opened another business, Crumble continued to do well, like, what? Like, we could just hang out and play golf and do nothing. But there's something inside of me, something inside of me saying, that's not what your purpose is. Your purpose is not to just make a bunch of money and go to the golf course every day, So
I was just going to say, it's also, like, it's about leaving a legacy, right? It's about changing something or someone. Somebody once said, like, who's going to be at your funeral? And it may sound morbid, but, like, that's a great thought. I've been to a funeral with 30 people at it, and I've been to a funeral with thousands of people at it.
Yeah.
Very different people and very different characters, but the point still remains, is, like, who's going to show up? Who did you impact? Who did you lead to Christ? Who did you influence? Or even like one of the ones that I'm thinking of with the thousands of people at it, I didn't go because I knew them directly, but I knew their kids directly, and I'm close friends with their children. And their children have had an impact on me, which speaks volumes to the parent, right, that passed away. They had an influence on my life through their children. That's the type of legacy that we're talking about. That's a greater purpose. So that's, like I said, as morbid as that might be, it's a good thought to like sit with. What am I doing to impact people when I'm even gone?
I mean, I think that's the best way to, I think if you wanted to boil this whole purpose thing down to like just a sentence or two is, what will people say at your funeral about you?
Right.
James was selfish, had nice things, but never gave, was a Scrooge, was angry, was the hammer, fired people from his business a lot. These things obviously are not true, of course. But that's a fear, right? Is that how I will be perceived at my funeral? Or will Lila get up, talk about how much time she had with me, talk about how much of a good father that I was, talk about how I led her to Jesus, talk about how I helped her get baptized? Like, that's purpose, right? That's a part of the purpose. Is our children and leaving a legacy. And then the other aspect is, what are they going to do when we are gone? What direction will they head? Will she, I don't really care if she's in business or not, I'd love her to be, but will she continue down a path that we paved for her? Or is the path that we're paving for her just kind of willy-nilly, go whichever way you want? Christianity's not the only way. Jesus isn't. Like, what do you want your kids to do? Do you want to leave them better off? Or do you want to leave them to kind of fend for themselves? And so I think that's a part of the purpose. But that's a great purpose to have. If that's what somebody's purpose is to be a great dad, a great mom, the best family member, like, that's a great purpose, I think. So I guess maybe the last thing that I would say is, to your feedback comment, I think that's really helpful, impressive, that you need to get good feedback from people, because you may be heading down this direction, but people from the outside can see like, hey, James, I don't think this is the right direction for you. So I think as we are aggressively trying to find our purpose and really pursue what we're trying to do where we feel led, what are people from the outside actually saying? Or what are they not saying? Are you not getting any feedback? Are we not getting any feedback? Are we not listening to anybody in the industry or what have you, in the family, or take feedback with a grain of salt, but I think feedback's important for growth, for purpose, for all those things. Plus, if you don't take feedback, you never maybe be given opportunities.
Right. It's how we can grow. It's one way that we can grow, for sure.
Yeah.
You take it, whether it be like a criticism or a encouragement or whatever that feedback looks like.
Right.
Take it and you grow from it.
Yeah. So I think maybe just kind of wrapping up, 2025 is literally how many hours? 12 hours away-ish, something like that. 12, 15 hours away. This episode won't air until it's already the new year. And so if you're listening to it, it's not too late to write down some goals. It's not too late to get out of that survival stage, move into status, move into freedom, start thinking about your purpose. It's not too late to write down some goals for 2025. Just talking briefly about goal type things, start really small. Just start with a couple, but write them down somewhere. I'm a huge proponent of looking back at what I wrote down and being like, oh, wow, you really missed that one. You weren't even close. Shush, you're crazy, right? Or do that dream board like we talked about. Who cares? It's January 6th, 7th when this probably goes live. Do a dream board. Mm-hmm. It's only a week into the year.
Yeah.
Get started now. So, any final thoughts, comments on that?
No, I think it's just important to do. And doesn't mean that you have to accomplish all of them in a month. Remember, this is for a year or even 3 years or 5 years. It's not all going to be done within a week.
Yeah.
Like, take one thing from your goals list and maybe focus on it for a month, and then it becomes a habit and it becomes part of your routine. These are goals, so then within each goal there's going to be small habits or routines that help you reach that goal. So I think sometimes goals can feel overwhelming, or like, how am I even going to do that? Well, it's one small change a day.
Yep.
It's one small habit that's changed to reach that goal.
Yep, absolutely.
So
I love it. Well, listen, Happy New Year. Do us a favor. Share this episode with somebody. Send an episode. Do us a favor. Send an episode to somebody who's married, maybe in business, who's an entrepreneur, who's a C-suite executive, somebody that you think needs to hear about what Angela and I are doing, what we're trying to do, bring people together. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.